I was thinking we go a route where the power people turn out to be not so good, and then he has a crisis of conscience. But abandon that. No. abandon that idea. I want to see Paul Giamatti steer a giant Megazord. Hello and welcome to StoryFellas, the podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
Zach, how are you doing this evening?
I am good. I am really good. I'm all warmed up. My wife made me a Manhattan.
Ooh.
It's got my veins feeling real crazy.
Real crazy. Dude, I got to get some stuff for a Manhattan. I like I make a mead old fashioned over here.
Oh yeah, I've had yours before.
Oh yeah, I think you've had it. It's gotten better. I've got like a smoke kit.
So I remember it being the worst old fashioned I've ever had.
Yeah. It was literally just dirt with some bourbon poured on top of it. But no, I want to get the stuff from Manhattan because every once in a while I go out and I'm like, oh, a Manhattan. It's like the cousin of the old fashioned. You know?
Oh yeah.
It's good.
There's siblings even.
There's siblings. There's like weird siblings.
Yeah.
There's some places around here that make some fun cocktails that are, but a Manhattan's always.
You have such a cocktail guy vibe.
Do I? It's because I'm bald, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bald. I feel like in another life I could be a bartender. I think I would.
Dude,
like
you
at a
should be a bartender. You bald.
A bald tender. Hey everybody.
Freudian slip. There it goes.
I'm your bald tender. Bald Tinder also sounds like a dating app for bald people.
Bald people? Like just dudes, most likely. Maybe the occasional cancer patient.
Are you trying to meet? Do you want to make a bald friend today? We'll get on Bald Tinder. Oh man.
Anyway,
that's great. Well, yeah, you got it through your veins. I've got a little seltzer here. Not as fancy as your Manhattan, but
hey man, sometimes you got to crack one open.
Oh, crack one open. But yeah, we're going to play some games. We're going to play story games. We're going to tell an awesome story. This might be the best one yet.
Who knows? My veins are feeling crazy, so I might die.
Yeah. Just die on the podcast. It's like, oh, that was the last episode. I thought the other day, I was like, what if Zach just quit? Like, what if he just quit out of nowhere and you're just like, nah. And I'm like, I don't know. I'd have to really think hard of who could like fill your shoes. Cause
that's very kind of you.
Yeah. Well, you're a story buff. You're really good at telling stories and thinking through logistics. And, you're like definitely that writer vibe. You're the writer vibe. I know a lot of film people.
Are you flirting with me?
Yeah, this is Bald Tinder.
This is the seltzer speaking.
This is the seltzer.
I should send a whole 6-pack to you.
Zach, you're so handsome tonight. You guys can't see because there's no video,
but he was ugly.
He was made a real ugly face.
No, you're very good too, man. Like I think that we have a little bit of peanut butter jelly thing going on.
Yeah, I think we balance out each other. I've been QCing a lot of our past episodes, and we kind of, when one of us is veering off into the ditch, the other one grabs the wheel and pulls it back onto the road.
We're very patient with each other, I think.
We are. I kind of thought we would fight a lot more than we do.
Oh, really?
Well, not like fight, but I thought we would get to like real like head to head. Like
we should fight.
Yeah. Well, that's your classic line. You always want to make characters fight in the movies. Zach, roll a 10-sided die.
All right.
Let's tell this story.
Yeah. People are like, skip. Well, guess what, viewer? Shut up.
This Manhattan.
This is a tiny little. This Manhattan's really going crazy.
This Manhattan energy.
There's a tiny little offshoot here. Okay, tangent here, people. Before I roll the die here, shut up is the single best, like funniest single line to say to anyone at work. Like you're just doing your thing. People are like talking at the water cooler, and you walk over and you just shut up. Or as my coworker usually, because I've told him about this joke too, he usually goes, "Shut up."
Yeah, the attitude.
Yeah, the drawn out kind of wiggly shut up. Anyway,
I remember you telling me about that, and it's true. It's just so
It's so dismissive. It's so
dismissive and simple, and it's like comes back and forth as an adult. Like it's like a thing as a kid, and it's like they say it to each other, and then they're like, "Stop saying that," and you kind of grow up and you don't say it, and then you come back as a full-grown adult and you say it, and it's like, "Oh, that hurts." It's like, shut up.
To other full-grown adults who are like just doing their job or talking about something stupid at work, and shut up. That and the nonverbal responses. It's very close to a nonverbal response, which is just like a grunt or something. I love those. It's such comedic gold. Yeah. Anyway, you said a 10-sided die.
Roll me a 10-sided die.
Let's do this. Oh, where'd it go?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, I found it. I rolled a 6.
All right, you rolled a 6. That prompt is going to be: a man writes a letter that was never meant to be sent. What happens when it slips out of his possession? And I don't know if we can steer the or get what.
It sounds like a classic, like Boy Meets World, episode.
But we have, before we started recording, we were talking about wanting to explore like a horror genre.
Yeah,
I don't know, and that would take it out of the Boy Meets World. Genre.
Boy Meets something.
Boy Meets World, but man. So we've got a letter. Never meant to be sent. He loses it. He misplaces it. It gets stolen. It gets stolen is kind of interesting.
That is, yeah. So does it reach its destination? I missed that part.
The prompt is just what happens when it slips out of his possession. So this could be a story of him trying to catch up with this letter before it gets where it needs to go, which that feels kind of comedy, which we could do, but that definitely is what this story normally is. I've seen like sitcom episodes of this.
That's what I'm saying.
Story.
Yeah, that's like your classic. You should write a letter and then blah blah blah. And I
think if we took it more drama or more horror, I think having some supernatural horror.
You would say that.
Make it supernatural.
Make it weird. One thing, but weird. That's my Tommy.
Can we make the main character bald?
Yeah. Exactly. And then he's going to fight somebody. But no, I think kind of playing with the idea here, because, this is just to get us going here. Okay. It's not like we need to hold to it like scripture. Okay. Yeah. What if it's not a letter? What if it's a will?
Ooh. Okay. So it's like a will.
And maybe he's like, go ahead.
It makes me think of Grand Budapest Hotel, where there's like this, it's Jeff Goldblum's character. I forgot who that was, but yeah, he's the lawyer, and he's like, there's all this will, and all of this stuff points to this other document that I can't seem to find, like a extra will that would supersede the first. Like, I like that kind of element of mystery.
That's cool.
If we wanted to explore that. That wasn't me trying to do Jeff Goldblum, by the way. Like,
you were on the line. You were flirting with it. His is like, he's very, he has like a way of speaking like this.
Yeah.
Oh, I like hot dogs. I like meat. Yeah, I think that's like a Mad TV bit. Because he goes like, he always says one thing and then he goes and reverses it immediately. So he's like, I like meat. I like hot dogs. I like, but I'm a vegetarian. It's like that, and he does like the 180.
Yeah. But so if this is a will, what is the will? Is it the writer of the will that loses it?
No, I think a lawyer would be interesting. So like the lawyer, the power of attorney guy gets the will from the person and then is like on his way, and then it gets stolen or whatever. Okay, just bear with me here. This is the Manhattan talking. What if
Oh boy.
We're in a post-Kaiju world.
Gosh.
Okay. And this is going to go down as the Manhattan episode. Yeah. Okay. You can just bear with me. And it's like a, post-Power Ranger kind of thing, where there was an entity that had a giant robot that would fight crime, and then that entity ended up getting cancer and dying because of the robot or something, and the robot, it's like, where's the robot going to go? Who gets rights to the robot?
Okay.
And so there's one like schmuck lawyer, not like a bad guy, but just like Paul Giamatti, kind of lawyer.
And he's just like, Paul Giamatti.
I'm a kaiju lawyer. I gotta hear Paul Giamatti again to do a decent impression, but that just popped in my mind, like this kind of schlubby. It's animated in my head where he's like, you ever seen Popeye, the guy with the hamburgers?
Yeah, the Sailor Man Popeye?
Yeah. There's like Popeye, Olive Oil, Pluto, and then the guy that's like always eating hamburgers, and he's got like a 3 mustache.
Where he's like, I'll give you something today for a hamburger.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right.
Yep.
And that kind of guy, but he's like, it's windy out, and he's like, whoa, and the wheel is being pulled away or whatever. But then some like evil espionage people come and they get him drunk and they steal it.
There's so much that we've got Dr. Manhattan over here.
Yeah. I'm my atom point in my forehead, and I'm naked and blue in this episode, guys. Just imagine this voice, but naked. And I'm on Mars.
And on Mars. I'm not against this. We got to explore. Let's explore. I got to pin down a lot happened very quickly. We went from like a lawyer, and then you're like, he's a kaiju lawyer, which is really funny to me. Like, I know we're kind of trying to stay away from comedy if we can, but in a world with kaijus, there's like a little schlubby lawyer who's just trying to like.
That's what's interesting. It's the contrast.
Yeah,
it's the tiniest things, down to the last jot and tittle on this. That was a little Jeff Goldblum in there. The last jot and tittle, that is what sways the world. Okay, that wasn't a very good Jeff Goldblum, but
yeah, we'll do an episode where you have to stay in Jeff Goldblum the whole time.
Okay, but yeah,
but no, okay,
you know what I mean though, like the contrast.
Is this like Power Rangers world or like post-apocalyptic world?
I think it's Power Rangers world. I like the idea of a giant mecha robot.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Okay, hear me out. This is like very clear, like very much on the nose, like a Power Rangers world. Like they're like off-brand Power Rangers, clearly.
Yeah, of
like
course.
It's like whatever they like. We'll call them the mighty
Power People.
Yeah, the Power People. Yeah, let's call them Power People. We got the 5 Power People, and they're each a different color. They get in their mech, and then they fight giant monsters. But this entire story is not. They are not the protagonist. Yeah. It's the protagonist is this Paul Giamatti character that
I'm in, dude. If you show me this trailer, I'd be so in.
And he has to deal with all the like legal stuff. He's this schlubby lawyer. He does all this legal stuff for when the robots destroy businesses.
The cities, yeah.
And they call him up and they're like, yeah, this robot just stepped through my bodega or whatever.
I love that. Killed my entire staff. But did he save the city? The pig monster was going to eat all the food on planet Earth in a matter of 12 hours. Don't you remember that episode of Spider-Man? What am I talking about? Power Rangers.
Was that true? Was the pig monster
that was one of my favorite episodes. Was the pig monster, and he's like, he's a giant pig head, and I don't even remember his name. He had a mohawk. I had his toy. It was very.
I think I remember him.
But the whole plot was that he was going to starve the whole world by eating all of the food.
I'm in love with this movie. This might be one of my favorites so far. Like, so Paul okay, let's flesh out Paul Giamatti because the only visual I have is he's like in this like, I don't know, he's like 5 stories up in this like New York building, like big windows, and he's like talking to his boss, and then like maybe that's the opening scene. Like it's just him. He's like his like tie's crooked, and he's like coming into work and to his like Sherman and Co. or whatever the attorney's office is, and like you have the big windows behind him, and he's like talking to his boss or the assistant, and he's like, hey, can I talk to Mr. So-and-so? And this is like, he's in a meeting, you'll have to wait 20 minutes. And he's like, oh, and they're just like nonchalantly waiting, and then just this robot and giant pig like start wrestling behind there, and they're not paying any mind because this is like happens all the time in the city. And I love that.
The idea of like the super wide shot that you see, it's like nighttime, and you see the lawyer in the foreground, and then in the background you see all of that action happening. Yeah. And he's just like, it's going to be a long night, and he's just there working on the thing.
I like that. I think that's really funny. I think it needs to be Paul Giamatti. But let's give him a name. We could just call him Paul.
Paul's fine. I think you said Sherman, which was interesting. I like that as a first name.
Okay, he could be, but yeah, like he can be Sherman. I like Sherman, and maybe his boss is like. I feel like is he lower down the? He's Sherman. Is he low on the totem pole, or is he like one of the main? It could be funny if he's like a partner. There's like two partners, but they're not like a super high end law firm.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or maybe they are. Maybe they are, and he just has to deal with all this.
His name is Sherman Goldforke.
Goldforke?
Yeah, but it's got like an E on the end.
Okay. Sherman Goldforke. I already have a potential title, but we'll save that for later.
Okay. I'm reading your mind right now, but okay. Yeah, so Sherman Goldforke is the schlubby lawyer. And I say schlubby, you know, he's just like a curmudgeonly kind of guy. He's Paul Giamatti, you know?
Mm-hmm. Sherman Goldforke, who I think we need to establish who his partner is, and we can get to that later, or we can get to that now. We should give a name to this city, because I think that would be funny.
For sure. I think the partner's deceased.
Oh, okay.
Part of the whole thing is that it's like Goldforke.
He got stepped on by a kaiju.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah, he got killed by a kaiju, and the whole thing is like their mission was to then support the group that helped get revenge. And I could just see him saying all the time, like, my clients, you know, whatever, and then you know, they saved the world.
So is he a lawyer for the power people?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so he's like their lawyer.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Okay. I thought he was just like representing businesses that got stepped on it, but he's like defending people. People are suing the power people.
Yes, and he's defending them. Yeah, I love that. And
that's
so
great.
I like that he, you know, there's like a scene where he's with all the power people in like a boardroom, and they're like, "You're the real hero, Sherman."
Are the power people very just flat and hero-esque, and they're just like,
I think they can, or
are they have a little bit of detail to them?
They can have a little bit of character to them. I think they don't have to be exact carbon copies to the Power Rangers. I think the color coordination thing is probably as deep as I'd want it to go. Yeah.
I like the idea that they love Sherman or something, and they're just like, oh, and he's just on a different, like, he likes his cozy apartment.
I have an idea. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He likes his cozy apartment. They're always like, do you want us to pick you up in the pterodactyl? And he's like, no, I'll take a cab. And then he like takes a cab there. He hates like riding in their big robots.
Totally. Yeah.
And then, yeah, he represents them. He defends them when the city's like, yeah, you saved us, but you killed my grandma.
Yeah.
I want to hear your idea though.
So, okay, this is like the actual plot in my mind, is that he's like a crack lawyer for these kids, you know, and they're like young 20s at the oldest, you know, they're not like super old or anything, or like, you know, in their 40s or whatever. But they are all orphans. That's kind of like part of their thing, their backstory. And we pick all this up in the beginning, you know, hacky commercials and toy lines and whatever, that we show all this merchandising that he's getting money for, you know, as part of the deal. But he's a father figure to them though. Like he's an older schlubby father figure that's like just kind of a lovable, no lady in his life. You know, he's just totally married to his work. They end up dying. And they left him the power people end up dying. And they leave the mecha to him. They leave the giant mecha to him. And so they're like, a kaiju comes and they're like, Sherman, you got to do something.
Oh my God.
I just think that's like the last person that you would expect is Paul Giamatti to be working whatever, you know.
It's funny because the title I thought earlier, I was like, I don't know if that's going to work. And something about this is maybe reinforcing it to make it work again. We'll get to that down the road. That's Chekhov's title right there. That's really fun. I was thinking we go a route where the power people turn out to be not so good, and then he has a crisis of conscience, but abandon that. No. Abandon that idea. I want to see Paul Giamatti steer a giant megazord because that would be so funny. And I think there would need to be.
Wait. Let's pause for a second.
Yeah.
Not pause the actual thing. But he literally did this in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as Rhino.
Oh, he was Rhino.
This has all been like psyoped into my brain.
But this is different because he's
playing more himself.
He was playing a rhino. He was playing a literal rhino in Rhino. movie, the movie Rhino with that features Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I something about me just really laughs at the power people. They're just this scene. It's very The Other Guys, when
It is,
Samuel L.
yes.
Jackson
Yes.
and
Aim for the
Dwayne
bushes.
Rock, like,
yeah.
they're like, yeah, we love you, and they're like, hey, I don't know how this if it's a kaiju, like they're like, hey Sherman, we're gonna we're gonna get you some frozen yogurt, whatever you want, on us. And like he's like, no guys, I don't want any frozen yogurt. And they're like, we're just gonna run across the street and get you some frozen yogurt. He's like, we're gonna get you the big king cup. And then they all run over there, and like people are like, power people, and then a giant kaiju foot just crushes the whole yogurt place.
I love that. I think that them dying suddenly, or they like in battle, like they're cocky, like they overlook something, and that's actually what ends up getting them killed. And I don't know, I kind of like the idea that it kind of gets, the third act is like a courtroom drama.
Oh,
so we see him do the fun things with the Zords, obviously, but he ends up like, whatever it might be happens, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe he gets sucked up to like an alien tribunal. And
that's what I was going to say. If like at some point he could, because he has the robot or whatever, like he at some point talks to one of the kaijus and like realizes like he can communicate. He's like, wait, I can talk to you? Yeah. It's like, yeah, we could have always talked. It's like, why didn't they say it? It's like, because they just started fighting us immediately. And then it becomes this like intergalactic or wherever the kaijus are from, like courtroom drama, because that's really funny. If like there's like little humans like on a little table, and then giant kaijus like in suits or something like that.
The kaijus, like, the judge is wearing the big robe or whatever, and a big the hair curl thing. Like,
so we've got, let's take it back. Let's go back to the beginning a little bit. We get introduced. I like the idea of introducing Paul Giamatti. We introduce Sherman.
He's just like eating Chinese food as they're like destroying like in his office. Yeah,
and he's like unfazed. I like the idea that a lot of people in the city are like that. Like they're kind of unfazed at this point. They're like, it's like the weather to them. Yeah. Like, oh, another kaiju.
And a lot of people probably have kaiju protection plans or kaiju insurance of some kind.
Yeah.
So they're not afraid. Not that they're not afraid to die, and they don't try not to die. But the whole idea is like, it's a jackpot essentially if I win. So a lot of people. Maybe there's like insurance fraud that they have to deal with, where it's like somebody purposely got in the way, and then they got obliterated.
That would be funny if there are certain people that they have kaiju insurance, and they're trying to attract the kaiju to their house, because they're like, oh, it's going to be so sweet, babe, if we can get this kaiju to step on our house. Yeah, we're going to be rolling in it.
I think that's cool. Like it's all very, you take like a mundane bureaucratic kind of thing and you make that the center of the story, and all this other crazy stuff happening around it. I think that's very compelling. But the first act has to be Sherman telling the power people, like, you guys, you really got to up your will, or, whatever it is that ends up being the central document.
Yeah, he's like, okay, yeah, hold on. So he keeps getting on them. He's like at their headquarters, and they're like, and maybe there's like, what's his name? Alpha was the little robot.
Oh, Alpha, yeah.
Alpha. Little, there's like an Alpha-esque robot that's like, they're like, the power people are like, they're like drawing with magic marker on, and they're like just having a party, and they're just like, he's like, guys, you really got to get on this will. Like, you've got so much stuff. And they're like, it's fine. And like, he keeps following up with them. And then whenever they die, however they die, if they get smushed or whatever, well, no, he's their lawyer. He would know exactly what their will is, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think. He has made himself their power of attorney or whatever, which allows somebody to make decisions for someone else. Mm-hmm. I guess if they're all like in a coma or something, but also, since they're orphans, that's why I kind of laid that groundwork, where it's like, we trust you with everything, man, everything. And he's like, I really don't want any of this.
Yeah. So like maybe they've already made him. They're like, just give it all to you. You'll take care of it. And then, and then he's like, no, I don't want that. And then the idea of just this schlubby lawyer walking into basically the Power Rangers headquarters just by himself. And he's like, I guess this is all mine now. And I feel like we need to bridge, if he's so like anti this, like what is going to motivate him? So let's just, we get to the point, we have the relationship with all the power people. How do we, okay, well, one, do we want all the power people to die? Because it is, are they kind of like children to him in a sense?
I think that's
so
the
it is going to be
way.
sad.
Yeah, it's the cleanest way to, yeah, exactly. Like they die and he's obviously saddened by it. And then he sees that the people, it's not just a cash grab anymore. It's like there's a mantle that is on him now where it's like, you've been chosen by the power people. And I don't know if he has to find like 4 other people to like pilot the Zords with him. Maybe that's part of it, but that's, letting the will kick into place. Like, I don't know. I think that he finds out, I don't know. I mean, I'm messing with it here, but like they have a secret will, and it's like, oh no, I mean, this is they wrote their own will kind of thing. Outside of all the merchandising or whatever. They left you this, but that he would be telling himself that, right? Like if he was their lawyer, he would have all this knowledge.
That's the trouble I was finding myself, because if he's their main lawyer, then he would know all of that. Because I keep trying to find a way of like someone coming to Jeff Goldblum knocking on his door. He's like, you have all the Megazords now.
Yeah.
But that feels weird that they would have a second secret lawyer who did their will, especially when he's on them. So I feel like maybe that's the motivating thing. It's like, they're like, it's all to you. And like, maybe they've done it. Like, they're like, hey, since you never wanted to do it, we took it to another lawyer. And he's like, I don't want this. You need to change it. And then they die and he's grieving and he's not in him. Like he almost feels guilty and he needs to pick up their mantle.
Okay.
That kind of is like a slight motivation. Like he's not, obviously he doesn't want to, but.
Or we make him not the lawyer. And so he's just some
it's really
guy.
Funny as
I know. Lawyer. I like it. I like that.
Here. I've got some characters that might help.
All right. Yeah. Give me some supporting characters.
What if he has a sister and she has kids? So he's never had kids. He's not a relationship guy.
Yeah.
But then I think it's funny if the kids are like, Uncle Sherman, we've played video games. We can teach you how to steal this Megazord. And like. I don't know if it's like 2 kids or 3, or it's like the parent. Like I feel like a girl and a kid, a girl and a guy, like young kid, like 12 or something.
Or funny. 2 boys, twins.
Yeah, 2 bit. Yeah, something like that. But these like this youthful energy that will help him. And they're like, you can't give it away. They loved you. You were like a father to them. You've got to get in the
They put you in a video game. It's like he's in the official video game for the power people.
Oh man, like he's just like, they're like, you've won. And then it's like this boring mini game that people have to play after a level. Or, I've got to, the people are suing me again. And they're like, why do I have to play as this grubby lawyer? It's an 8-bit Sherman.
It's like I feel like it's like PS2 graphics or whatever, and he's just like, like they put you in that video game, and he's like, yeah, and they didn't have to, and it like cuts to like them playing it, like just like they were already playing it, but they paused it, and it's like you see him and he like looks ugly and stupid, It's like, yeah, they really captured my likeness. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to introduce some dialogue. And some movement for him. Also, just the immediate threat of more kaiju, like whatever killed them is now still on the rampage.
Yeah. What? Okay. Here. I've got another thing. They're at the Power Rangers hideout. His kid, he gets a text or something from his sister of like, I need you to watch the kids. Me and Richard are like we need a vacation. We need you need to watch the kids for a week. And he's like, I just inherited the entire Power People's mansion. Like, it's not a good time. She's like, I don't care. I'm sending them. I'll send them to the Power People's mansion. They'll meet you there. And like, she calls them an Uber. And then so there's this like temporary, like the kids are there.
That's cool.
And then,
or maybe the sister gets kicked out. And the whole thing is like she gets evicted from the place that she was at. I think that makes a little bit more sense because it's not like this super comedic note where she has to kind of suspend what naturally would happen. But it's like, they go there all the time anyway. And it's like, hey, we're looking for a room. We figured you'd have one open here. You know, or he says like, hey, come stay with me. You know, like, so like Richard is on a bender again and he's had one too many Manhattans.
He's Dr. Manhattan. What if it's just what if it's a single mom and 2 kids and then him? And then because then I think that could be funny to like we could fill one more random guy, like a friend of his or something. But I was thinking something like a kaiju starts coming and they're like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And the kids are just like, we could do it. We could, and like some sort of the kids get in the robot, which forces Paul Giamatti and the mom, their mom, to be like, "Hey, get out! You can't!" And then like it's like activating Megazord, and then it's like, and they're like, "What's happening?" And it like throws on like it morphs them into
the armor.
It morphs them into the Power Ranger suits. It would be really funny if it's like clear, it's fitted for the power people. So like Paul Giamatti is just like so tight, and he's like, "Oh, this is not gonna work." And then I think
I'm getting a little Incredibles vibes here.
Yeah, it's kind of like Incredibles, but he's not a superhero at all. Like he's a reluctant hero.
To smush it together, what if that actually just is his family?
It could be that. I just didn't know.
I guess that he would be spoiled because he'd be so rich, but I do like him being like an Uncle Scrooge.
Yeah, I kind of feel like him being an uncle is a fun dynamic that, like, if he's just the dad, I feel like that's different. If he's an uncle, he doesn't have to be super present. He's just present every once in a while. And I was thinking the alpha robot, whatever, or like whoever's would be kind of the guru. They're like, shoot, man, they're dead. Just like, because I think he would need, I don't know, maybe we don't need that because he's there all the time, but I feel like someone would have to train him a little bit. I don't think he could fully get it from the kids. It could be they play video games and then he gets it. But
yeah, I think he definitely needs time in a Zord by himself. I think that's interesting. Like the Alpha Robot, you know, he's getting drunk one evening and Alpha Robot's like, you know, he wants to just get in there and he's like, oh, I don't know, sir. That's not really a good idea. I also like the idea that the Alpha Robot is the bad guy.
Ooh, okay.
That it actually is part of it was a beacon, you know, it sent out a beacon to its mother planet and brought the kaiju, and it knew the weaknesses of
frozen yogurt.
yeah, whatever it is. But yeah, it knew the weaknesses that they would possess and be able to exploit it, cloak the kaiju so they didn't see it coming, kind of thing.
Yeah, I know I made the frozen yogurt joke, but if we wanted to make it less comedic, they could be less flat characters, and then he just finds them like destroyed, like they get attacked, blindsided by kaiju. So it's a bit more.
I like that. Really, yeah, I mean that's very Polka Dot Man from the most recent Suicide Squad. Yeah. And spoilers alert. He was my favorite character, but he gets smushed by the giant starfish. He's just like, I'm finally a hero, and then it just poof, which is a funny thing. Like, don't get me wrong, but I didn't like that moment in that movie because he didn't deserve that. Like, he didn't deserve to be a punchline to something. He was they spent so much time building him up. Yeah. Whereas like these guys, like these said, like the other guys, you know, aim for the bushes. Yeah. And then they just, you know,
smash themselves. Yeah.
But yeah, they like push the Zords too far or whatever. Or maybe they try to use the big weapon at the end of the battle that usually wins the battle for them, you know, the unibeam or whatever it is. And it doesn't work. And so then the kaiju just like, you know, rips their whole thing in half.
Yeah. No, I think, and then, I don't know, it just leaves or it keeps destroying the city or something. How does the Megazord?
I mean, as the Zord gets destroyed, it gives off something that actually dispels the beast, or maybe they mortally wound it and they like kill each other.
They mortally wound it and kill each other. The power people do.
Yeah, the power people kill the kaiju, and the kaiju kills the power people.
Yeah, like or it could be something.
Strike, it pulls out this circuit that causes some power cell to have to explode, but they end up, you know, breaking its neck in time or whatever. And it's just like,
and then there's like a return to home feature of the Zord, where it's like, oh, panic mode. There's no driver, and it returns back to.
Okay,
the
so you're
headquarters.
thinking about the Zord. I'm thinking the Zord because we're talking about like the 5-piece
Yeah.
Zord, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Then it can't get destroyed. So you're saying that the power people have to be out of the suit,
Well,
probably.
like, yeah, where or it's just like they die in the thing, or it's like punches through the headpiece, Pacific Rim style, and like kills them that way, or a gas gets in there from the kaiju. That could be interesting. But I'm just saying, like, somehow the power people die, and then like the Zord kind of
But they were
detects
clearly
like,
sabotaged. I think no matter what, like however
yeah,
we
yeah.
choose to do it, the alpha character is the one that, whatever. And the lawyer can figure that out at some point, but it's too late, kind of thing.
Yeah, like the controls aren't working or something like that. And maybe we don't know as the audience what happened. Like it's like just something went wrong and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, but the whole point I'm trying to make is the Zord gets back to their headquarters. Like they mutually destroy each other, but then the Zord moves back to the headquarters.
Yeah.
So it's not just laying in the city because I think that's
No.
weird.
I think if anything, something that they could do is that it chases the alien or kaiju up into space. And what ends up happening is that like they run out of oxygen. And
Yeah,
so
I think
they just die, but then the Zord could just like descend back to Earth.
because that's an interesting, like, yeah, they're like flying and fighting this kaiju, this flying kaiju, and they're like, don't worry, like we've got the oxygen tanks, and then that oxygen tanks malfunction, and
Yeah.
then like they can't breathe, and then comes to find out like the alpha robot sabotaged those tanks. Like it's like I knew it was all part of the plan. I think that makes sense. I think that is how they go.
Yeah. And that way they can still be buriable, like he could still look at their dead bodies and mourn them, and they can be buried somewhere as opposed to being like vaporized.
They were completely vaporized.
Yeah.
There was
I do
only
like the
their
idea
shoes.
that like he brings in all the world's leading scientists to like help figure out what happened with the thing. And they're like, I got no idea, man. Like they spend all this time testing it or whatever. And the head scientist guy is just like, I have no idea.
I don't know.
I'm an MIT grad, triple grad, whatever. Like, and I can't even begin to wrap my mind around what is inside of here.
He's like, I don't even know what this stuff is. I don't even know
Yeah.
what I'm looking at. That's funny. I like that. Okay, cool. And then he has the Megazord. There's no kaijus around for a little while.
For a little while,
everyone's
yeah.
kind of murmuring. It's like, well, what's going to happen when the kaijus come back? And then that's something that Sherman's having to think through. And they're like, and maybe the alpha robot is like, just like it, like conceding defeat, like conceding, air quotes,
Yeah.
conceding defeat. It's like, oh, there's no hope now. We just have to wait now. But then the kids come. They're like, you could do that, or like maybe one of the kids gets in one of the like 5 pieces, not the super one,
the foot or
and
something.
yeah, they both get in, and then they like start running if they're jaguars or whatever,
Yeah.
like throughout the city, and they're like, we gotta get him. He's like, oh, and then like that's what gets him in the thing, and then he kind of has some fun, and he's like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then maybe, yeah, his sister gets in the other one, and then they're all like, oh, I'm getting the hang of this. I do think we need to figure out the 5th one, and I think the 5th person
Love
should
interest.
be really funny.
Oh, okay, sure. I'm thinking a cop character, like a character who's, or a security guard at their law firm. Somebody that he'd be around a lot over late nights that he would get to know and stuff, and becomes kind of his, or maybe he has a personal bodyguard.
What if I guess he could have that.
He is the partner of a huge law firm for a superhero group.
Yeah. I was gonna say either the security guy made me think that could be fun, where he's like the security guy at the law firm or at the building, and like that seems like, and then they have like a weird friendship. Like they go to the bar and they'll get a beer together, like when it's closing time. When I like that,
Or he'll
seems,
bring him a beer, like
yeah. It just seems interesting, like this like well-to-do lawyer, and then he's like, but he's not very social, and maybe he just gets along with the security guy, and then they go to the bar down the street and hang out. Because I just think someone who's just this kind of more minery character being like the fifth one, he's like, I gotta get in there. The other thing I had the thought of, which I feel like this is a stretch, is like somehow the other partner isn't actually dead and he like shows up and then he's the fifth guy.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Like maybe he's just retired.
But I don't know how to like play.
I think that just gives him a good reason to be their lawyer. Is that like his partner was killed, and so he's like made it his mission to protect them because they helped get revenge.
Yeah.
Or maybe he faked his death and he's the main bad guy. I feel like that's a longer timeline though.
Yeah. No, I think
we're like in a well-established world where he's been doing this for close to 10 years. He's like, when I first took you guys on as clients, you were minors, but now that you're 18, you need to have a will. And you have some of the world's most dangerous technology. The world is kind of waiting for you to grow up a little bit, people, and then they don't.
Yeah. No, I think that, so we've got him, we've got his sister, we've got the kids, and then we've got maybe some fifth guy. But regardless, I was thinking they're running through the city, they're teaching the kids. He's kind of getting a taste of like, oh man, this is pretty, this is kind of fun. And then maybe that's the moment like a kaiju comes from the ether or something. Maybe it's a smaller kaiju too.
Yeah,
maybe
one that could be handled not by the full Zord, but
by the 4 individuals. And they're like, come on, Uncle Sherman, we got this. Like I like the idea of the kids being just so reckless abandon that they're like the kids from Bob's Burgers. They just don't care. They're just like, and they just like charge into it. And then Sherman gets the taste of blood, and he's like, I want to kill this guy. I
like this.
He's like, I'm a lawyer, not a fighter. And then
I think it's interesting that maybe he finds out it's not even a will, but the kids had programmed, the power people had programmed the Zord to only listen to him if they weren't around. Yeah. And that's kind of the idea is like, even though the U.S. government says they own it, it only listens to you, dude. And he's like, I don't want it to listen to me. Whatever. He rejects the call.
That's the scientist thing. We'd have to change the whole thing of the kids run off with the thing if they only obey him. Or maybe
that's true. I think he could let them in. They want to see the inside of it or whatever. And I mean, they could all just be in 1 foot. Like, they don't have to be in the full Zord. Or we could break that a little bit, and it's just like Pacific.
Actually, I think like 1 foot and whatever it's. I can't remember. I know the Power Rangers always changes it, and sometimes they're animals, and sometimes they're just trucks or whatever. But yeah, they're all 4 of them are in the 1, and they're like they accidentally start driving and running through the city, and they're like kind of having fun. And then like a baby kaiju like comes out of the thing like that could be handled. And they're like, use the weapons, Uncle Sherman. He's like, I don't know how to use the weapons. And then it hears him say it. It's like, engaging weapons, and like this like helmet comes on his head and these guns, and he's like, he's like starts shooting.
I get it. Yeah, it would just like plug into him. It'd be like Avatar. Like it just can plug into him.
It just plugs in his butt.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like now plugging in where? It's such a stupid joke, but
it's
like the Matrix.
It's like a helmet, or I picture like Pacific Rim, like it puts a suit on him which I don't know how that works. If it's like a Jaguar, like he used to be on all 4s.
Yeah, I don't know how that works either, but I think nailing down the exact type of machine that he's in, that would give you the specifics of like the specific jokes that we're running into, what he has to learn to do and whatnot. But can one man wield the power of 5 power people? Yeah. And then he beats it, and they're like, hey, you could do this. And like people, like the news and people are like, who's in that? Is that their lawyer, Sherman? Or that's Goldforke in there. Yeah. And then I really like the scene of him just like trying to figure stuff out. And it's like, he takes by himself, like one night, just takes one of the mini Zords out, and it's just like parked, and he's just like sitting on the hood of it, like drinking a beer with like maybe his like security guard or something. I think it's a big love interest thing. Like they go out in the ocean, like they're literally in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. They flew all the way out there, and he's like, there's plankton that light up and stuff, and he just sees this whole thing, and he shows her, and they pop a beer, and I think that's romantic and cool.
him trying to figure it out. And yeah, maybe she, if there's a love interest, maybe that's the fifth person.
Yeah. And maybe she ends up being part of the bad guy thing. That way we don't
break
have
his
to,
heart.
Yeah, that way we don't have to like seal the deal on it, you know? Like we don't have to wrap up that. I guess wrapping it up would just be her betraying him kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he realizes. Yeah, she comes around basically. She's part of the law firm. Maybe she's a younger secretary or younger lawyer actually that helps him out. And he asks her if she wants to go out one evening, and she's like, yeah. But she's been compromised by this alpha. What we need to name the alpha character. It doesn't. I mean, it could be literally anything.
Beto.
Okay, cool, perfect. Beto.
Beeto.
Yeah, it's like beta, but O. But yeah, Beto tells, you know, it's like psychically aware and is like controlling her, or maybe not. And maybe that's the whole thing is I think I thought of this gag at some point for some other idea, but like somebody psychically, you think they're psychically taken over the whole time. And then Sherman is like, wake up, snap out of it. And she's like, you know, I'm not possessed. I actually just want to do this. I think that it's just, yeah. We clearly are in like mega comedy territory, but it has like a nice grounded realism to it. People die, you know. The kids get kidnapped, you know.
It's the love interest and Beto are like, she's like, I love Beto. And Beto's like 4 feet tall.
Yeah. Well, I also think Beto will probably grow into a giant thing at some point too.
Yeah. What if Beto, like Bane from like the Batman like animated stuff, like where Beto's like a little 4 foot tall thing, but then like it expands and like he's actually kaiju underneath, and he gets like muscly, cool. and the all the metal is armor. He was never a robot.
That's cool.
I like that.
I like that a lot too. That he was never a robot, dude. That's scary. Yeah. He had the little eye thing that goes back and forth. You know, it's like, that's just part of, that's my armor.
That's my sunglasses, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he's like, when he's like fully, like he's like 7 feet tall when he's like in his kaiju form. And he's bulging him out. He's like, how'd you fit in there?
Yeah. That was your mouth or whatever, you know, like, I don't know. Yeah, I like that.
And then there's the kids get kidnapped, and I think maybe his sister doesn't, because I think she has to be the one who like rallies him. Like he's left behind. It's like they took some of the Zords or whatever, or they destroyed the headquarters, and then she like rallies him, and she's like, "You can do this. Like your nephews need you." And then he rises to the call, and he kind of becomes this like superhero and goes and fights these kaiju. And like maybe like Beto is like he seems like the sentient one of kaiju. And then like that's the first they're discovering. They're like, oh, there's like sentient kaiju, and they can kind of get to the bottom of what's going on. I don't think it ends with
the courtroom. You trying to get out of the courtroom?
Well, I just feel like it feels too real. Well, it could be funny if there's like, I think someone besides Beto would need to come, like some like elder of the kaiju who's like more diplomatic, and then he's like, that actually could be cool. Like if they steal the thing, and then he's like, I don't know how that would. I'm trying to thread that needle of like him using his lawyer skills rather than his robot skills at the end to save the day. And maybe we establish somehow these kaiju are very like rule bound somehow. So
that's cool.
It's if he finds a loophole of like how they have to obey or do something.
I like the loophole thing.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll hammer that out in the time we've got.
No. But that is interesting. Like, and it can be kind of a spooky. It doesn't have to be so cartoony in terms of the courtroom thing. Like it can be. You remember Ben 10, right? Mm-hmm. You know the one, of course. The Alien X.
Yeah.
It's like
I
that.
love Alien X. Like where
I know. I know who I'm talking to. I know.
Yeah.
Let the audience know what this is if you don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to describe what Alien X is?
No, I mean, I love Ben 10, but
Okay.
you're the one who goes gaga.
Alien X, for you who don't know, because you don't watch Ben 10, it was an alien he could turn into, because he could turn into a bunch of aliens. But this was one specifically that when he turned into it, the alien didn't move. He was like kind of invincible, kind of Dr. Manhattan-esque, and just stoic. And then Ben was inside the alien's mind, and then he was basically controlled by these two entities that were always disagreeing, and they had to come to a majority vote at any point to do anything. But this alien could literally do anything, like Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like, so if two of them were like, let's bring the dinosaurs back, then they would be able to bring the dinosaurs back. But they had to have a majority vote within their head.
That's so cool.
It's so cool, man. It's like such a cool premise and it's just in this kid's cartoon.
Yes.
And it's like, man, I love this kind of idea.
And I bring it up just because the way they choose to present that inner space is kind of interesting, where it's just black void. He's floating there. There's the two heads and they're talking to him. You could do something like that with the courtroom. It doesn't need to be like literally like a, hey, we have our gavel. We literally have Kaiju in the jury and they're listening, and they're all, yeah, I mean, you could. I think if it was animated, you definitely could do that.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of fun.
He just needs to be very convincing. He's rolling his persuasive check or persuasion roll, and basically he needs to persuade them, whether they're like, maybe that is like he somehow gets absorbed into one of the Kaiju's mind, or there's like the entity, like they're kind of semi hive mind or something. And then it's like, he's like, if I can convince you, or that yada yada yada, then, and he basically like loopholes them into leaving Earth or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. I think that's really cool, and I think that's cool to come back to his original strengths.
Yeah, I was going to say, what does this mean for his character? And can we go back to the beginning and tweak some of that formula that we made with him? I mean, him being a schlubby lawyer who wants nothing to do with the cosmic power of being a power person is obviously, then he kind of reluctantly takes that mantle. But he would need to tell the kids in the beginning, like, this is actually more powerful than what you guys do. Like
what his lawyer, his
role. Yes, exactly. Like, and he could say it in kind of a glib way, but this realm of laws, like even giants are ruled by laws. And I think
I like that. That's the line right there. That you got it. Even giants are ruled by laws. I like that. So yeah, we have that.
And then he beats them in the legal sense. Maybe he gets beaten. The whole thing is that he gets beaten and the Zords get taken from him. That's the second act slump.
Yeah.
And it's
like
all
the dark night of the soul.
Yep. And then he gets a chance to get up on the stand and is taken to the tribunal or whatever, and is actually able to win a legal argument with them because he realizes it's all laws. And that's the whole thing, is like there's a force beyond these giant beings that they abide by, that if he can convince them to do whatever. Again, we're not figuring it out in this exact podcast, but you can feel what we're going for here. And I think it's pretty cool.
I like it a lot. I think it's fun. And then he comes back and he's kind of renewed, and people are like, he's a bigger hero because the power people would defend the city multiple times a week, but he like ended it.
Yes.
Like
he ended the war.
The pen is mightier than the sword.
Yes.
No, I like it. I like it a lot. Dude, this story is buck wild and an all-star. Sometimes we get these prompts and it's like, oh, someone loses a letter. And then you're like, well, maybe it's a will. And then we're like, well, maybe they're super power people. And
it came like a vision, dude. Just that literally him sitting in an office building or walking by a giant kaiju that was dead, and just like in that trench coat with the rain blowing on him, and he's like holding onto his briefcase. It's like the little thing is interesting because of the big thing behind it, and that contrast lit me up, man, like a stick of dynamite.
Like a stick of dynamite. Well, I think that's a story, man. I think that's a story. Do you have any titles for this? Because I've got a tentative one.
My idea was something for the title was something to the degree of the people versus blank. I don't know why I like the power people kind of thing. And then the lawyer, you always hear that, like the people versus George Lucas.
Yeah.
Like the people versus Sherman Goldforke.
It's funny that you say that because I also was thinking of a courtroom name, and my courtroom name was Goldforke versus Kaiju.
Nice. I mean, that's great. Yeah. That's a little Adult like Swim.
That's the bigger thing. I do like the people, but they're like so out of the picture so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
That it's
that was just the legal courtroom things, but the verses like Kramer versus Kramer, you know.
Mighty Morphin Goldforke.
yeah. And the Goldforke, who knows where that came from in my brain? I do not know.
Like it. Goldforke with an E. I kind of like that somehow being in the title. Like, I feel like Sherman or Goldforke in the title sounds cool. And I like the verses just because it's like a lawyer story.
Yeah, I do. Goldforke v. Kaiju is really interesting.
Yeah, like, or again, people v. Kaiju. But
yeah, that's true. He's like on behalf of Earth. You know, he's saying like, "Hey, we the people," kind of thing.
Or I was thinking the Power People, which is funny because if this actually got made, I probably wouldn't name them the Power People. I would probably
that was just like farted that thing out. But no, I like Goldforke v. Kaiju.
Yeah, Goldforke like V like versus like VS.
Yeah, you could say V or you could say versus. It's whatever. But just like in legal terms, it's like Leak versus Murphy.
Yep. Goldforke versus Kaiju. I like it. This is Goldforke versus Kaiju.
Yeah.
Man, I can only picture Paul Giamatti. And it bleeds
this
right
movie
into
can only, Paul, Spider-Man. If you're listening, it can only be made with you.
It can only be you.
We will literally Irishman de-age you. I don't care if you're 90 years old when you can finally make this.
We sorry for us keep saying Shalabi. That's the character, not you. We're not talking about you.
He knows. He knows.
Well, Zach, I was thinking we need an Along the Lines. Do you have an Along the Lines for us?
All right. As much as I can do a Paul Giamatti, forgive me. This is Sherman Goldforke speaking to probably his sister at some point, or even his niece and nephew. And he turns to them and he says, "Even giants have to abide by laws."
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.